Okay, so it's been a couple of days because I've actually got a bit sick and just getting over that now. So this has been given about 48 hours. So let's unclamp it and have a look and see how we go. It's looking pretty good. Pretty sure we have success there. What I'll do now is I'll add this other piece of binding back on. We'll glue that on, tape it back up, and then we'll leave that for another 24 hours. But we're not going to restring this for probably another 48 hours. I just want to make sure that all that glue cures after the tape comes off, because every time you put tape over a glue joint, where the tape is actually in contact with it, it doesn't get as much air, so it doesn't cure as well as open air will. So anywhere there's any of these fibres that have swollen or slightly protruding or whatnot, I want to make sure that it's nice and clean, and so that the binding can sit right against this edge of the binding here on the layers. So anywhere that needs to be trimmed, I'll just take the scalpel through and just trim it up. But yeah, it's looking pretty good. Okay, so I've got a little bit of hide glue in there now. Just going to pop some cyanoacrylate in there. That'll hold it in place while I get some clamping pressure with the tape. And that's that. I'll leave that tape on there for a day, maybe only 12 hours. I'll come back tonight and take it off, and then I'll let that cure for another 24-48 hours, and then we'll get to just very carefully scraping and sanding the sharp edges, any sharp edges that are left from the misaligning. But it's not too bad. There's a little bit here at the end from where the crack was down here, where the finish is still a little bit higher on this side than this side. There's a little bit right there, and there's some right here. But this binding here is pretty good. A little bit there, a little bit there, that's fine. And there's that little bit there that was from the other piece of binding that was lifted up. So anyway, we'll leave that now, and we'll come back when she's all cured. We've let that cure. We're going to take tape off. We're going to have a look at this binding and start giving it a bit of a clean up. Get rid of these sharp edges and get it ready for. Going to put a little bit of finish in there just to protect the any open wood. When fixing up this binding, you want to be very careful with this multi-layered binding that you don't want to go onto this part that's still good, because it's already got that age in it. So that would have originally been white, or a light cream, and you can see how it's yellowed. But we don't want to scrape along that, because then it'll look different. This outer edge one we can't do much about. We have to get rid of the sharp edge, but at least we can minimize the visual aspect of the repair by just going down ever so slightly, so there's no more sharp edge, but not touching the aged stuff that doesn't need to be touched. Okay, it's about as far as I want to go. I'm going to give this a good clean, and then we'll put a bit of finish on it. Okay, so I'm going to work a little bit of finish on this side of the binding first, and around this joint, and when I'm happy with that side, I'll flip it and do the top side of the binding as well. Now I actually want to apply this quite liberally, and we'll sand it down, but we want to make sure that we get enough finish into any open pores of the wood. So for this coat, we're not going for surface finish, we're going for protection, and we'll be sanding this with 600, and then we will see how it goes, but we'll probably have to do another coat, which we can be a little bit more gentle with, a little bit more precise. Okay, so just going to give this a little area of sand now, try and smooth it out a little bit, and then we'll give it another touch of clear coat, and we'll call that done. We don't want to go too crazy with it, because we want to keep the patina of the guitar and keep it as original as possible. It's ready for a bit of clear, so we'll get on to that. Okay, I'm actually going to give this a bit of shellac rather than clear, because the bulk of it's on this side here, and given the patina of the guitar, I think it's going to work better. Okay, so that's all dry now, so we're going to hit it with a little buffing wheel, and we'll just leave it at that. So here's the end result. Not perfect, but that's exactly how we want it. So that end block is all shored up and ready to hold some string tension and some belly tension. So ready to get some strings on it and give it a little bit of a mild setup. We'll have to lower this saddle height, because there is some shrinkage in the neck joint here, which has given it that, it shrunk down. When these typically shrink down like this, and they give it a lot more fall away, but they also pull the neck up, which gives it a lot more string height. And without resetting the neck, the only thing we can do is shave the saddle down and get it as low as possible, without doing some really major stuff. Okay, got it strung up. Just going to test the electronics, make sure they're still working. I mean, it's playable, but from about there, she's really tall. So I think what I'll do is I'll give the customer a call and see what they want to do. Might make a new saddle right down to the to the board, get it as low as possible, and that might be it, because, you know, as I said, we don't want to go too crazy resetting necks and whatnot. So okay, let's get this saddle out and get it shaved down so we can try and get this action a little bit lower. So because this has got quite a bit of neck joint shrinkage and some belly swell, it's going to be quite hard to get low action. If we run this straight edge along the frets, you'll see here that it hits the bridge, and it's quite a bit down. Can you see that? Ideally we'd reset the neck, but given the value of the guitar financially, it's probably not viable to do that. Okay, let's have a look at this neck, see what we can manage there. Might be able to get a bit out of that. That's right about 1/6 thou we've added into it. That's quite a lot. I'll give it one more tweak. Maybe 1/6 thou would be awesome. It'd make this thing actually playable. That's almost 1/6 thou. We'll retension these and see what the result is. Not too bad. So by giving it the tension, we've lost 2 thou off what we gained, but there's really nothing left in that truss rod. Yeah. It's probably about as best as we're going to get this thing. I've dropped that saddle down as far as it'll go. I mean, there's probably a little bit more in it, but I'm just not comfortable going too low. For all intensive purposes, this thing's done. And I think it'll play. It's not the easiest, but it plays. It's still quite high action, but it's playing. It sounds wonderful, and I think the customer is going to be really pleased that she can play this guitar now and remember her father, who sadly passed away and left this to her. But that's it, done and dusted. This is a 1970s Fender F35 Acoustic, repaired and playing again. Any questions or comments in the thing below, and I'll do my best to answer them. Cheers.